Have you ever spent an entire summer carefully tending to your potato plants, only to dig into the dirt at the end of the season and find nothing but tiny, marble-sized disappointments? It is incredibly frustrating. Today, we are going to fix that. We are talking about the ultimate secrets to growing massive, thick potatoes that will make your neighbors completely jealous. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to turn a single small seed potato into a bucket full of absolute giants. But here is the hook. You might think that dumping a ton of strong fertilizer on your plants is the answer. That is actually one of the biggest reasons your potatoes are staying small. We are going to uncover the counterintuitive truth about what makes potatoes swell up to massive sizes. Do you prefer classic russets? Or are you a fan of creamy red potatoes? Let me know down in the comments right now, and let us get started. Before we dive into the exact steps, we need to understand a little bit of history and plant biology. Potatoes originally came from the high Andes Mountains in South America. They thrive in loose, well-draining soil and cool temperatures. The most important thing to know is that the potatoes we eat are not actually roots. They are swollen underground stems called tubers. The plant produces these tubers to store energy for the next year. Your goal as a gardener is to trick the plant into storing as much energy as possible in those underground vaults. Let us look at the 10 crucial steps to make that happen. Let us start with the very first step of your journey to a massive potato harvest. We need to talk about seed potato preparation. There is a common myth out there that you can just buy potatoes from the grocery store, throw them right into the dirt, and expect a bumper crop. But that is a huge mistake. The real secret starts weeks before planting with a process called chitting. Chitting simply means forcing your seed potatoes to sprout before they ever touch the soil. Imagine placing your seed potatoes in a cardboard egg carton. You set them on a bright, cool windowsill for about 3 to 4 weeks. During this time, they will grow short, dark green and purple sprouts. These are essentially the jump start your plants need. By doing this, you are giving the potato a massive head start on the growing season. When you finally put them in the ground, they do not have to waste time waking up. They get right to work building a strong root system. If you just toss dormant potatoes into cold, wet spring soil, they are more likely to rot than to grow into the thick, hardy potatoes you are dreaming of. So, do not skip the chitting phase. It is your first line of defense against a disappointing, tiny harvest. Always let them see the sun first. Now that your seed potatoes are ready, we must tackle the soil. The environment underground is everything. A massive myth among new gardeners is that potatoes can grow in any type of dirt. If you have hard, compacted clay soil, your potatoes will literally be squeezed. They will stay tiny because they cannot physically expand against the hard earth. Think about trying to blow up a balloon inside a small glass jar. It just will not work. Your soil needs to be incredibly loose and fluffy. You should ideally be able to dig into it with your bare hands. Before planting, you must amend your garden bed. Work in plenty of organic compost or aged manure to a depth of at least 12 inches. This creates a soft, sponge-like environment. When the potato tuber starts to swell, the loose soil gives way easily, allowing it to grow thick and heavy. This aeration also prevents water from pooling, which keeps the potatoes from rotting. If you want huge potatoes, you have to give them the physical space to become huge. Fluffy soil is the absolute foundation of a thick harvest. Never force them to fight against hard clay. Next, let us discuss how you actually put them in the ground. The way you plant them dictates how much room they have to multiply. Many people make the mistake of digging a shallow little hole, dropping the potato in, and covering it up. That is a recipe for a tiny yield. To get thick potatoes, you need to use the trench method. Dig a trench that is about 6 to 8 inches deep. Place your sprouted seed potatoes at the bottom of this trench. The sprouts should be pointing up toward the sky. Now, here is the secret. Do not fill the trench all the way back up immediately. Only cover the potatoes with about 3 to 4 inches of soil. This deep planting encourages the plant to establish a very deep root system right from the start. As the green leafy part of the plant grows and reaches out of the trench, you will gradually fill the trench in over the coming weeks. This creates a massive vertical column of buried stem. And remember what we learned earlier. Potatoes grow from the underground stem, not the roots. More buried stem equals more area for thick potatoes to form. It is like building a multi-story apartment building for your potatoes. This brings us perfectly to the next critical step, which is known as hilling. Hilling is the magical process that separates average gardeners from master potato growers. There is a myth that once you plant potatoes, you just leave them alone until harvest time. That is entirely false. As your potato plants grow taller, you must continuously pull soil up around the base of the stems. Imagine you are tucking the plants into bed with thick blankets of dirt. You want to mound the soil up high, leaving only the top few inches of the green leaves exposed. Why do we do this? First, it creates even more underground stem space for new potatoes to form. Second, and most importantly, it protects the growing potatoes from sunlight. If a growing potato is exposed to the sun, it turns green and produces a toxic compound called solanine. Hilling ensures your massive potatoes stay safely buried in the dark. You should hill your potatoes 2 or 3 times during the growing season. Every time you mound up that dirt, you are essentially telling the plant to produce another layer of tubers. It is a simple effort that yields massive results. Let us move on to something that ruins more potato harvests than anything else. I am talking about water management. There is a dangerous myth that you should water your potatoes heavily every single day. While potatoes do need water to swell up, inconsistent or excessive watering will ruin them. If you let the soil dry out completely and then flood it, the potatoes will grow in spurts. This leads to cracked, ugly, and hollow potatoes. You want steady, consistent moisture. Imagine a kitchen sponge that you have wrung out. It is damp, but it is not dripping wet. That is exactly how your soil should feel at all times. During the period when the plants are flowering, the tubers are doing their most rapid expanding. This is when they need water the most. If they experience a drought during the flowering stage, your potatoes will stay small forever. Use a drip irrigation system or a soaker hose if you can. This delivers water right to the roots without wetting the leaves, which helps prevent diseases. Consistent moisture equals consistent, thick growth. Never let them go thirsty when they are flowering, but never drown them either. Now we arrive at the topic of fertilizer. And this is where most people get it completely wrong. The biggest myth in potato growing is that high nitrogen fertilizer is good for them. If you use a fertilizer heavy in nitrogen, like lawn fertilizer, your potato plants will look amazing. They will grow massive, beautiful, dark green bushes above the ground. But underground, there will be absolutely nothing. Nitrogen fuels leaf growth, not tuber growth. To get thick, heavy potatoes, you need a fertilizer that is high in phosphorus and potassium. Think of phosphorus as the building block for the roots, and potassium as the fuel that bulks up the tubers. A great example of this is bone meal or wood ashes. When you feed them potassium, it acts like a protein shake for a bodybuilder, but specifically for the underground potato. It helps them convert the energy from the sun directly into starch, which swells the potato up to an enormous size. Apply this specific type of fertilizer right when you plant, and maybe once more right before you do your final hilling. Stop feeding them excessive nitrogen if you actually want food to eat. Let us talk about personal space. Plant spacing is a huge factor in determining the final size of your potatoes. Human nature makes us want to cram as many seed potatoes into a garden bed as possible. We think more plants equal more food. This is a fatal flaw. If you plant your potatoes too close together, they will constantly fight each other for water, nutrients, and sunlight. Imagine putting 10 people into a tiny elevator and asking them to do jumping jacks. It is chaotic and nobody has room to move. That is what happens to crowded potatoes. They will survive, but they will all be the size of golf balls. To grow thick, massive potatoes, you must give them room to breathe. Space your seed potatoes at least 12 to 15 inches apart in the row. The rows themselves should be about 2 to 3 feet apart. This generous spacing ensures that every single plant has exclusive access to a large volume of soil. When the tuber starts to expand, it will not hit the roots of its neighbor. Give them the luxury of space, and they will reward you with luxury-sized vegetables. Even though the potatoes grow deep underground in the absolute dark, sunlight is still the ultimate driver of their size. There is a strange misconception that because potatoes are a root crop, they can be planted in the shady parts of your yard. This will guarantee a terrible harvest. The green leaves above ground are essentially millions of tiny solar panels. They capture the energy from the sun and use photosynthesis to create sugars. Those sugars are then pumped downward and converted into the thick starches that make up the potato tuber. Without maximum sunlight, the plant cannot manufacture enough food to grow massive potatoes. Your potato patch needs full, direct sunlight for at least 6 to 8 hours every single day. Do not plant them under trees, and do not plant them next to tall crops like corn that might cast a shadow over them. The more intense, direct light the leaves can absorb, the more energy gets sent straight down to the roots. Treat the top of the plant like a solar farm, and the bottom of the plant will become a potato factory. Next, we have to talk about temperature control, specifically using mulch. Potatoes are a cool weather crop. They actually hate extreme heat. A huge myth is that bare dirt heating up in the summer sun is good for the plants. In reality, if the soil temperature gets too high, the plant will panic. It will completely stop producing tubers and just try to survive the heat wave. To keep your potatoes growing thick and heavy all summer long, you need to regulate the soil temperature. The best way to do this is with a thick layer of organic mulch. Once you have finished your final hilling, cover the soil with 3 to 4 inches of clean straw, dried grass clippings, or shredded leaves. This mulch acts like a heavy blanket of insulation. It keeps the blazing sun off the dirt, keeping the roots cool and happy. It also helps lock in that consistent moisture we talked about earlier. By keeping the soil cool, the plant thinks it is still in its ideal spring growing conditions, and it will just keep pumping energy into those tubers, making them bigger and bigger. Finally, we reach the most difficult part for any gardener, which is having the patience to wait for the right harvest time. There is a huge temptation to dig up the potatoes while the plant is still green and vibrant. You might get some nice, tender new potatoes this way, but you will completely miss out on the massive, thick main harvest. The secret to ultimate size is waiting for the dramatic death of the plant. As the season ends, the potato plant will start to turn yellow. It will look sick, the leaves will dry up, and the whole vine will eventually fall over and die. This is exactly what you want to see. When the top of the plant dies, it sends every last drop of its remaining energy down into the tubers. Even after the plant looks completely dead above ground, leave the potatoes buried in the soil for another 2 full weeks. During this hidden time, the skins of the potatoes will thicken and cure. This makes them store much longer in your pantry and gives them that classic, tough baked potato skin. Patience is the final ingredient for giant potatoes. But wait, there is a final, unexpected twist to this whole process. After you wait patiently and finally dig up those massive, beautiful potatoes, you might want to rush inside and wash them under the sink. Do not do it. Washing freshly dug potatoes introduces moisture that can cause them to rot almost immediately. The real secret is to just brush the loose dirt off with your hands and let them sit in a dark, well-ventilated room for a few days to fully cure. So, there you have it. By avoiding common myths like high nitrogen fertilizer and shallow planting, and by embracing deep trenches, fluffy soil, and extreme patience, you will harvest the thickest potatoes you have ever seen. You now have the exact blueprint to turn your backyard into a heavy-yielding potato farm. Thank you so much for watching and learning with me today. If you want to keep transforming your garden, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Now, I have a question for you to answer in the comments. What is your absolute favorite way to cook potatoes? Mashed, baked, or fried? Let me know down below.